I have the ROG Xbox Ally X. I'm going to talk about it. I'm Steve Saylor. I'm blind, and if you're wondering how I can be able to play video games and what I can see when I play video games if I'm blind, take a look at the video here or click on the link in the description down below. All right, so let's talk about the Xbox Ally X because I have it here. I've had it for the past couple of days. This is going to be a long video, and the reason why is because I have my thoughts, my personal thoughts, my accessibility thoughts. We're going to talk about that here at the beginning of the video, and then right after, we're going to go into a pretty about over half an hour discussion with my friends Riley Little, Steve Vegvari, and Eren, aka Caboose, and we're going to talk about because they Riley and Eren have the Ally, the Xbox Ally, whereas Steve and I have the Xbox Ally X. So we're going to talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, what are sort of what are the things we the differences between the Ally and the Ally or Xbox Ally and the Xbox Ally X. So make sure to be able to check that out. Timestamps will be on the description down below. So let's talk about the Xbox Ally X. This has been an interesting sort of review for me. Thank you to Xbox for sending over this device for me. Like, I really do appreciate it. I never expect to be able to receive any of these devices from or any of these consoles from manufacturers, so I really do appreciate it. But I should say that yes, of course, like Xbox did send this over, but they did not pay me for review. These are my actual personal thoughts, including the accessibility of it. And if you know me, I enjoy the handheld PC market. I have a Steam Deck. I have the original ROG Asus ROG Ally, and I also have a Logitech G Cloud. I even have the PlayStation Portal. So I am a connoisseur of the handheld gaming market, including I have the Nintendo Switch OLED and the Nintendo Switch 2 as well. I love handhelds. It's the one thing that actually makes it a lot easier for me to be able to play video games because I can be able to have the screen super close to my face, even closer than any other like TV that I can be able to play normally. And this works great for me. I can see really well, minus any game that has like small text because obviously with the smaller screen, but it is something that I personally love because of my disability. This is what I appreciate is having a handheld gaming device. Yes, I still play with all my consoles and on my gaming PC, but I do love handhelds. And I should say this, just kind of to summarize the TLDR of this whole thing. I think that the Xbox Ally X is probably the best PC handheld you can get right now. But it does have a lot of quirks, and it does have a few kind of issues that I think will be a problem for both non-disabled and also disabled players. Let's start off with probably the one that everyone will say essentially is the thing that would hold anyone back from being able to use the Xbox Ally or Xbox Ally X, and it's including for disabled players, and that's the price. It is probably the most inaccessible thing about about getting this device. It is $7.99 Canadian for the base Xbox Ally and $12.99 Canadian for the Xbox Ally X. This is not a cheap device. This is not something that you could just it would be a replacement for your console. This is generally meant as a second console or second gaming device for your home, and that price definitely puts it up there. If you spend probably a good couple $100 more, you can get a decent PC for that price, and that may work better for you, and it may even potentially have better performance than the Xbox Ally X. So it is something that I think that while yes, this is probably the best gaming handheld on the market, but I think that the price is going to be something that's going to turn people away. And I can't deny that. It's both for disabled players and non-disabled players. Like, it is the thing that would hold people back. It is the disability tax for everybody. It is not a cheap device to have. It is generally geared towards the enthusiast sort of side of things. But if you are curious about how it still runs, even if the price is something that is not a particular issue to you, or it's something that you may want to be able to get at another date when potentially maybe the price can drop a little bit further, or you may get some extra Christmas money or what have you, I will talk about what my general thoughts are on this device. I think it is the most streamlined experience with the full screen experience from Xbox. I think it definitely is one of those devices that I think this is exactly what this needed. The Ally, the original Ally, and even the Ally X, running on Windows 11, while great to be able to install all of your launchers, whether it's Xbox, Steam, Epic Game Store, GOG, or even Ubisoft Connect, like all of those, be able to install those and have it run okay and run relatively well is great. I think that's awesome. But when you get into the Xbox full screen experience on the Xbox Ally and Xbox Ally X, this is definitely something that it is the better experience. It is streamlined. The Xbox game bar is the best and the smoothest way to be able to access your most important settings that you would need to get access to, whether it's audio, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, or just tweaking the other, like the settings of the game itself or the performance of the system itself without having to boot into Windows 11 or even technically even open up Armory Crate, which is Asus's own software that they had as a launcher on the we're going back as far as the original Ally, but is now kind of just part of the background to kind of tweak any specific settings like the VRAM or any performance sort of tweaks you want to be able to kind of overclock the processor or what have you. So as someone who just basically just wants, if you just want to pick up and play a game, a PC game, whether it's on Steam or Xbox or Epic or Ubisoft, you can pick up and play it. It is the most smoothest experience I've had to just be able to, once you get a game installed or even utilizing Xbox Cloud Gaming, it is the smoothest way to be able to pick up a game and play than any other handheld that's out there. Usually a lot of handhelds, you have to kind of tweak some settings in order to be able to get games to run. But whatever the system has, whenever it's detecting what system settings you have and then updating the game settings within itself to be able to run, it just runs smoothly. It's the closest you can get to, I'd say, a Switch 2 experience where you just boot up the game and play, or a console-like experience where you just boot up a game on an Xbox Series X or S or PlayStation 5 and be able to play without having to really tweak any settings. Sure, if you want to be able to get some better performance out of certain things and increase the quality just a little bit and tweak that, if you like that, you have all of the options available to you. But if you just want to pick up and play a game, you can totally do that. I've played games such as Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Doom the Dark Ages, Hades, Mafia, The Old Country, and there's some relatively decent recent games, except for Hades that kind of came out a couple years ago. But obviously I'm playing games that have been released within the past 12 months, and it runs great. It runs smooth. The battery life is really good. I'm saying this as an Ally user, where basically you can barely get an hour battery life out of it all, but it just works, and it works great. Now, as far as the accessibility as it goes, and I have to talk about my accessibility experience based off of the setup. If you know how Windows 11 works, if you know how to run a Windows PC, it has all the same accessibility that is on Windows. You have narrator, you have magnifier, you have high contrast mode, you have text size increase, you have the ability to be able to connect your Xbox adaptive controller. You can connect even a different controller if you don't want to. If you have a different adaptive controller, just want to use the Xbox controller itself and have the Xbox Ally docked to connect to your screen, or even just docked on sitting upright to be able to play. You have access, and you can even remap all those controls as well, both either through the Armory Crate or through the Xbox Accessories app. You have everything that is within Windows and within Xbox's accessibility within the operating system. Everything is there. Does it work 100% all the time? Yes and no. It definitely are some quirks and some bugs of, especially with running like narrator, on having to be able to switch between the different elements on screen. With the thumbsticks, you generally sometimes have to sort of tap the screen in order to be able to kind of like find the specific thing you want to be able to select or change, what have you, because sometimes it can kind of get confused as to where that sort of what selection it needs to be able to activate, essentially, with using the controller. I do like that you can be able to navigate the windows now with basically with using all the controller buttons, especially with, say, using even just as simple as something like entering your PIN to be able to log into to the computer. You can be able to use all of the buttons on the controller aspect of the Ally X and Xbox Ally X, and you instead of having to tap the screen to put in your numbers, which I find that's a nice touch as well. And I will say accessibility is not perfect. I do think that the Xbox PC app specifically definitely needs a lot more improvement as far as accessibility is concerned. It does run relatively well with the narrator, and it even if you go into the settings and enable where it reads off the accessibility tags of some games, the narrator will read those off if you've selected that game in the system itself. But I do wish that you could be able to increase the text size of that app. It is something that you can adjust the text size for all of Windows very simply within the even the full screen experience, but beyond that, like the Xbox app itself just does not take that text size, and that's something I think that I wish Xbox would improve, and I hope that improvement comes soon, because it is not the easy experience for a low vision player to be able to use. Now, the setup is a little bit difficult. You have to go through the Windows 11 setup, and for me, it took about literally half an hour, if not 40 minutes, to be able to go through all of Windows updates, all of the Windows setup, before I can even go and start downloading games. But for the most part, it was an accessible setup process. Now that's just in regards to the OS itself. How does the games run for accessibility? I think that basically, if a game has accessibility options that you like, everything works. Both with Indiana Jones and Doom: The Dark Ages, both games have amazing accessibility settings. They run extremely well. It all runs native within the game itself. I haven't really tried out any sort of third-party screen readers or anything like that to be able to kind of help with some of the games that don't. I didn't have enough time to be able to try that out, but everything just works. If you're able to play a game, if there's an accessible game that you play on Steam or on Xbox or on any other PC platform or launcher, you can be able to play this, and everything just runs extremely well. I think that as long as if we can get more games, basically more accessible games, the more we can be able to recommend these devices as a fully accessible device. Now, yes, I was playing these accessible games on there, but I was also playing not necessarily accessible games. And I think that, there's still some issues, I think, with playing it on a smaller screen. Some of the text size doesn't translate well. And I think that's something I hope that developers will sort of look into as the handheld PC handheld gaming market sort of increases in value or in size, market share wise. I could see them basically having a different sort of setting to be able to increase the text size depending on what screen you're on. But I think it works. It works great. And I will say that I think once you kind of get beyond the setup, minus a few quirks of navigation within the home game bar or the Xbox app itself, you barely would have to open up Windows. You can even open up Windows settings without having to boot up Windows 11 or go into it. You still have the option to. You can go into Windows 11 and it worked just fine. But the full screen experience works relatively well. You can definitely tell that Xbox did sort of care about the accessibility of this device. And I have been told that, like I said, you can be able to connect the Xbox adaptive controller to this, and it works just as well. So any PC adaptable controller, any PC specific accessibility that you need that works well on Windows 11, it'll run on the Xbox Ally X and even the Xbox Ally, and it works great. Game performance is great, smooth, really well done. I think this is definitely probably the accessible gaming device that's out there. I don't want to say it's the most accessible, because I think Steam Deck also is great for that in regards to that. And out of the other one, that's probably the other one I would recommend that might be the cheaper way to go than having to be able to get yourself an Xbox Ally X or Xbox Ally. So if price was the inaccessible thing for you, I would say go for a Steam Deck. But if you can be able to afford to be able to get yourself even an Xbox Ally, we'll talk to Riley and Caboose in a minute about their thoughts. But I think that you'll be okay with the cheaper option, and it still run relatively well. All right. Well, I talked about the boys long enough, so let's and I talked about accessibility long enough. If you have any questions about that, please leave them in the comment section down below. Otherwise, let's jump into our conversation with Steve Vegvari, Riley Little, and Eren, aka Caboose. We got a bunch of allies and some Ally X's, all from Xbox, and we're going to talk about it right now. I've got Riley, I've got Caboose, I've got Steve Vegvari. Thanks for joining me, boys.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
This is cool. I've been wanting to have this discussion about this because we're like Steve and I. We both, the two Steves got the Ally X. Riley, you and Caboose, you both got the Xbox Ally. I've already talked about all the accessibility
Quit bragging
stuff.
about it.
Sorry. Well, we're just better.
God.
But I wanted to at least get the discussion going, because this is I've already talked about the accessibility of the device and all that in the first part of this video. But I wanted to find out your thoughts of just everything, kind of general. What are your pains? What do you like? What do you dislike? I'll start off. Maybe this kind of will help kind of steer the discussion. But I'll say that the ROG Xbox Ally X is the best handheld that I own, but it's not without its issues.
I think that's honestly a fair statement to make.
Yeah, I don't want to hear your thoughts. We'll start off actually with the Ally X as well. Steve, what do you think of the Xbox Ally X? It's for our first Xbox handheld.
Yeah, from like a very top broad perspective, I completely agree with you. I've been following the ROG Ally since its inception, since the 2023 when they first started coming out, and then the Ally X last year, and now getting to this. I feel like finally I'm able to make a conscious, proclamation in that Asus and Microsoft are finally like streamlining the play experience, because there were so many hurdles and roadblocks in interacting with Windows 11 on the previous handhelds, that now getting that overlay the Xbox game bar, I think that's a huge game changer when we're talking about these PC gaming handhelds. But like you said, while there are like significant improvements by way of the actual hardware itself, the software, I think that there are still improvements to be made down the road. But that being said, I think this is the most plug and play gaming handheld that I've interacted with. It just kind of sucks that when we're talking, you and me are talking about the Ally X, it's $1,300 here in Canada, and that's a tough pill to swallow, especially when we're talking outside of us four and outside of enthusiast gamers and stuff like that. When you start talking about casual gamers or people who don't even know what a PC gaming handheld is, I cannot recommend this whatsoever because I think the biggest thing is that there's no onboarding process within these devices, and I think that's one of the biggest hurdles that Asus, Microsoft, anyone, Lenovo, Steam, they really have to start identifying these problems. But that being said, from a pure play experience, this is probably the best experience I've had so far with these devices.
Yeah, price is definitely a tough pill to swallow, and hard to be able to recommend, even though for me it is the best handheld, because I have the original Ally, I have a Steam Deck, I have a Lenovo, or I have the Logitech G Cloud, which no one really uses. I have the PlayStation Portal, and yet, definitely this is kind of outshines it all. But I want to hear about sort of the Xbox Ally experience. Riley, we'll start with you. What did you think of your? Is this your first handheld, the PC?
So I've always been a Mac guy my whole life. I've been fortunate enough to be doing that for work.
So wait, this is your first PC?
I've like so I've dabbled, like I've played World of Warcraft back in the day and stuff like that. Like I was in on Burning Crusade.
You're tired.
was
I'm
big
just
into
talking
it.
like your regular
I booted
adult
up
life.
Microsoft Edge once or twice.
Cataclysm.
Yeah.
Cataclysm.
I was an
my
avid
bop.
Minesweeper
Yeah.
guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Solitaire, man.
Huge
Solitaire.
Solitaire fan, which comes, and that's accessible on.
Yes,
on
it
this,
is.
by the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a big day for me, but no, the second I booted it up, like I just if you're coming from a strictly console point of view, I was so taken aback because I clearly know nothing about this side of the industry, which is totally my bad. But I'm like, what do you mean I have to update the drivers and stuff? So I'm learning and I'm figuring this out, but like the way that it's done with the Xbox interface is actually pretty smart because like I'm familiar with that technology.
Mhm.
So I understand how to work that side of it. So if you're brand new to that space but you have Xbox content, like this is like a really promising first step to me. Now it's not as optimized as like the like official Xbox hardware Series X or Series S, but it is like a really cool way to implement different storefronts and ultimately come out ahead if you're a consumer, because you can hop over to that game store or Steam or whatever, however you want to play Game Pass, and try out some games, and it runs really well. Like even you guys got the X, which is obviously more powerful, but I found like the games ran totally fine playing on mine.
I agree.
Cool.
Everything that I had tried out had run pretty smoothly, and I will say, like, there were some pains booting it up and updating those drivers, just like you, Riley. You know, I had some issues getting all those updates in, but like once I got to the other side of all that and we were all good, like yeah, I could play pretty much anything that I wanted. I ran Indiana Jones pretty well. Like I played Skate. I had like a couple of hiccups, but for the most part, like I'm running Skate, you know, I'm rolling through the streets. So like, yeah, but like the novelty obviously is the idea that you can take your games, you can play them anywhere. That's always been what's so appealing to the handheld devices. I particularly, what I really love about the Ally, and this applies to the Ally X as well, is just it's so ergonomic. It's the reason that I love holding the PlayStation Portal. I don't necessarily love the Portal for what it does because it just does nothing.
It streams games pretty
Yeah.
well, but you don't have the
does.
full everything that all the handheld
it's
PCs
just,
have.
if you're someone who was into handheld devices and
Yeah.
you want like the idea is that you want to be able to take these things on the go, right? You can't do that with the Portal, but I love that the Portal is just a PlayStation controller with the screen in the middle. It feels really nice in your hands. And this for me it's an Xbox controller with a screen in the middle. And it's honestly, I think it's designed better. It feels really nice. The triggers and the bumpers also feel good. Everything about it, like I haven't tried Call of Duty, but I would love to see what something like a Call of Duty even feels like.
It runs well.
When you run,
It does.
That's
it runs
great.
really well.
Yeah.
I hopped into a game initially and it was like a little stuttery. I was like, oh, what's wrong? And then I look at the top left and it's like installing shaders. I was like, oh, okay.
right.
And then
There
it
you
ran
go.
like butter. And I was
That,
like,
that
okay,
was the
it's
big
pretty
thing is
cool.
like coming into it, obviously Call of Duty and its launcher has, you know, updates on updates every time
Right,
you log in.
right.
So taking that away from it, yes, it took about 2.5 minutes to actually get into Call of Duty. But once you were like at the lobby and I booted up, granted, I mean, even still, it was the Black Ops 7 beta that I was playing. And I was like, okay, this is probably going to be, you know, a gong show of trying to get into it. But as soon as I got into a match, it was running very well on medium settings. It didn't look beautiful. It didn't look as refined as it does like on a console or high-end
you
PC.
expect that when you're talking about a handheld, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
like
what
it ran perfectly
running around
fine.
as
Like
Predator.
I was shocked.
That's really surprising to hear, considering that that's like the latest title up. Like it's coming out soon, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about a new release that you can play on the handheld. And yeah, I don't know. Obviously, the toughest sell here is really the price, especially here in Canada. It's a pretty penny. But if you're into these kinds of things, if handheld is your way to play, this is the ultimate handheld. I agree with you, Steve Saylor, that like out of all the ones that are available on the market right now, this is the best one. Like it just it feels the best, it performs the best. It is definitely the most easy to navigate and get to my games, which I appreciate. So like, you know, I'm not like trying to solve the Da Vinci Code to launch a freaking game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really appreciate that. And having the Xbox game bar being attached in there is great. If you have Game Pass, Although I don't know, depending on everything happening right now.
Sure.
But if you've had Game Pass, then yeah, you could just jump right in and try out your
Well,
games.
it is so funny, Aaron. I mean, this morning actually, I was trying to do some time comparisons of booting up certain games. So like Forza Horizon 5, I did that, Silk Song, and then Doom: The Dark Ages with the new Xbox Ally X and the regular ROG Ally X, and going back to the last year's model and like strictly being interacting with Windows 11. I was like, man, this is tough because you're going between using the thumbsticks, using the face buttons, using the touch screen and everything. But here it's literally just using that new Xbox button and then going through. And sure, it's not as one-to-one as the console experience of using the Xbox button and going through, your menus and everything. But it is leagues above what we've been using in the past of definitely going through Windows 11. It's really night and day. And I think that I was super skeptical going into this whole thing. I was like, oh, what's this Xbox overlay really going to do? Is it really going to fundamentally
experience?
Yeah,
exactly. And I was like, I don't really understand like if that's going to affect how I'm going to be playing my games. But it really does.
That button right there.
That's it. That little
Xbox button right there.
There's your little library, and you can close whatever you want to do. Boot up whatever you want to boot up.
I agree with you, Steve. Like, I was a bit skeptical too because it did say that it wasn't what I had hoped for an Xbox handheld was something similar to like the Series X sort of like operating system. Like it's going to be streamlined. That maybe you'll be able to install other games from other platforms. But when they said it was going to be the full screen experience, but using a streamlined version of Windows 11, I was like, okay, all right, you have me interested. I was like, I could see what they want to do, and I was a bit skeptical, thinking, I'm like, is it going to run? Are we going to have some like growing pains with this? Like, is some sort of Windows 11 sort of thing that's going to hang in there, like a driver or a plugin is just not wanting to work well? But for the most part, once everything was set up and installed, it ran smoother than I had ever thought it would be. Like it is still the Xbox on like PC app. So if you're used to using that app, then that is basically what we're using. And this, I do wish that it had a little bit more of like an OS like interface, like a Steam OS, or like we said, the Series X sort of operating system. But I think once with the game bar, so much better than I had ever thought of. I thought because I don't use game bar. I'm a regular sort of gaming PC. So to have this is sort of like the newest version. I was like, okay, there's a lot here. You can access to your games, your launchers, all the settings you would need to, whether it's audio, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, everything you would need at just a quick notice. Plus also the Armory Crate stuff where you can be able to adjust like your power consumption or even go into the Armory Crate to update what VRAM you want. Like I didn't have to even go into that detail.
These little guys in the back.
There you go.
Customizable buttons in the back, huge.
Oh yeah, like I there was a lot that was kind of just like all at your fingertips that made it so much easier than the Ally. Because the Ally, it had the Armory Crate when it first boot up, and it's fine. But I always found that it always needed an update, and it always needed to get into Windows itself in order to be able to do anything. And even with this, like Steam was already pre-installed. I don't know if that's going to be the same when it launches for retail, but
I believe so.
Steam is pre-installed. Like you have to install everything else, but once you do that, you don't have to get out into Windows. I was afraid of that. I was afraid I was going to have to get into Windows and do all the going through the browser and setting everything up and all that stuff. But no, it was just hey, I want to download the Epic Game Store. Okay, here we go. Download it, and it runs, and you just log in and you have access to all your games. And then once your games are installed, then you see it in the Xbox app. So then you don't even have to go through technically the launcher.
That is super helpful. Yes. Yeah. Like seeing everything that's whether it's Steam or like you said, the Epic Game Store, having it all just be available through the Xbox app. And that way, like, I don't have to jump through 15 different tabs and go through all the pain of going from one place to another. Yeah, I really appreciated that as well. I'm with you. I mean, like everything about it is just kind of like an ease of use thing. That it's a lot more streamlined. It's a lot like better to navigate, better to get access to your game so that you can just jump in and start playing quicker. And that's what everybody wanted. In a perfect world, we would have gotten a handheld that is like the Series X OS,
like the
but
first
on a
party,
handheld.
yeah. That's the dream, obviously. Yeah.
Sure.
Certainly, but then you got to wonder, like, how do you implement things like a Steam or an Epic Game Store, right? So if they can find a way to get to that point, that would then become for me the ultimate handheld experience. But this right now is in a really good spot, I'd say. Aside from the price, it's in a really
Aside
good
from
spot.
the price, before we get into kind of like our own sort of gripes with it, because there is definitely a few we can discuss. But Steve, I wanted to ask you, because you're also into the handheld side, and you've also dabbled into the Ally as well. Did you find that the games actually, like, yes, we talked about kind of performance a little bit, but did you find that basically the games just ran a lot smoother without having to adjust any like graphic settings on your end?
So I feel like somehow there's like some sort of wizardry or maybe like some pre-optimization, but it felt like every game was kind of or for the most part, every game was pre-optimized to be played on the Xbox Ally X.
Yeah.
I hopped in, and at default, every game looked pretty good on medium settings. But then again, I kind of went in and tinkered with some of these games, like Forza, for instance, Doom. I went in, RoboCop, and then I think a couple other games. But yeah, I kind of tinkered with, like ray tracing or AI upscaling, higher settings and everything like that. Because for the most part, I haven't really been traveling all that much with it. So even if it came at a loss of some of the battery life, I was kind of okay with it. But right out of the box, it really does feel like a lot of the games that I have been playing anyways are plug and play, to the point of like, well, if you don't want to interact with settings, if you don't want to interact with the PC gaming aspect of all of this, you don't really have to. Every game will kind of just run right out of the box. And for me, someone who does not like PC gaming whatsoever because of this, because of updating drivers, because of going in and skewing with all the settings, I don't really want to do that unless I'm compelled to. So it's nice to know that if I'm booting up a brand new game that's coming out, bringing over my my progress from like the console experience, I can just play it for 2 hours and then go back to it being on the console later down the road.
That's what I found too, was like, because I had and actually I'm curious about what other games you all played, because I had Doom: The Dark Ages, I had Indiana Jones, I had Hades, and I also had Mafia: The Old Country installed.
Nice.
And I just, like I said, I think it detects what sort of what hardware you have, and then it just sort of like presets all of your graphic settings on it, which was great for me because I didn't have to go into the settings at all to be able to change anything. I had it. Oh, I also had Expedition 33. I had like one issue with Expedition 33 where I thought I was trying to use my mouse and I wouldn't move. I couldn't move with the thumbstick. So I basically had to go to Armory Crate and just say, no, I'm on gamepad. And then everything worked fine. And it was, and Expedition 33 looks like, even on low to medium settings, whatever the default, it looks gorgeous. So God bless all the devs are able to optimize their games to basically run like really, really beautifully on low end settings. But I was playing Indiana Jones at like decent low to medium settings on turbo 25 watt, or was it 35 watt power at 40 frames SPS, and it was running great. Like I had at least a good hour and a half to almost 2 hours of straight gameplay just on that alone, and it was awesome. And it's the first time that I've never had to go into the settings to be like, okay, this isn't running super well. Maybe if I tweak this a little bit and be able to kind of get that just to make it run smooth. This is the only handheld I've had, even the Steam Deck, which is probably the one that people will compare to the most as far as like performance and just kind of overall like market share of the handheld market. But I think like it is the one that I've never had to touch any of the graphic settings at all, just to be able to make the game run, which is amazing. What about you guys?
I really appreciate it as well. Like when I boot up like an Expedition 33 or an Indiana Jones, or even when I played Skate, all these settings are just automatically set to what it should be for it to run the best it can on the handheld. Because that, as someone who only like slightly dabbles in PC gaming, that's also like my least favorite part of it, right? Like you get a game, you're not 100% sure that it's going to run at the max settings. So you're like, okay, do I got to turn this thing down? Oh, it's still choppy.
You
turn
gotta,
this thing down.
And
just one by one, you go down the list. Whereas like with this, like no matter what game I want to jump into, it's automatically got the settings at the best capability for the handheld. And yeah, so I'm with you. I tried Expedition 33. I thought that ran smooth. Indiana Jones was working for me as well. Skate was like a bit choppy. I really want to try Call of Duty based on what you guys are saying. It sounds like it's a pretty smooth experience there as well.
Did you try Spider-Man?
I haven't tried Spider-Man yet,
Okay.
but I do really want to see what Spider-Man. I mean, Spider-Man
That's
ran
Caboose video
pretty
waiting
well.
to happen. I'm just saying.
It is. It is. Spider-Man ran pretty well on like the regular, like the older ROG Allies, so I couldn't imagine that I'm going to have any issues running it and playing it well on the Ally X. It will be interesting to play the PlayStation exclusive Spider-Man game on my Xbox Ally. But I am looking forward to trying it out. Again, I can't imagine I won't have any issues with it.
Yeah. What about you, Riley? Like, again, you're new to the PC side, but like, did you have to go through and tweak your V-Sync settings or your frame rates?
No, that was the best part. It was like I accessed my library of existing Xbox games, and I accessed Game Pass, and I could just pick and choose what I download, like what I wanted to play. I'd install it, and it just ran fine.
Awesome.
So I was like, this is like, there's like no barrier to end. Like, there's obviously a bit of like learning around it because it is a handheld PC, but after you get over that, like the guide makes it easier. Like it really is on rails for people who are coming from the console side and want to like continue playing. So it's neat. It's like a good accessory if you're a console player.
Absolutely. All right. So we talked about it. We alluded to it of just some of the issues of the Ally and the Ally X. I gotta keep saying it's Xbox Ally and Xbox Ally X. I'm so used to just saying Ally all the time. But we love it. But this is kind of like I would assume basically kind of like our nitpicks. I mean, we've talked about the price. What the cheapest is like what $8.99 Canadian,
$7.99 Canadian,
$7.99 Canadian for the at least for the Ally, and $12.99 for the Ally or Xbox Ally X. What are some of the things that you kind of wish were a little different, or at least would run a little bit better on both the Ally or the Ally X?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just simplifying and streamlining the update process. Again, I don't interact with the PC gaming space because of this, because of the little, hidden updates or hidden, launcher updates and stuff like that. I really, truly wish that there was just a way to set it so that if it was in its sleep mode or, when you boot it up, it's like, hey, the Xbox store has an update. Your games have an update. Windows has an update. Update all. Just click a button and update all. I don't want to have to go and search around and everything. Granted, we're still progressing. This is still a better experience to navigate all of this versus last year's model or even the year prior. It's very tough because I put myself in the position of like someone who has never interacted, the Rileys of the world, or people who are less removed from the PC gaming space and stuff.
The world.
I think it's just, you hear
I didn't
about
want to
these.
say it, but
I didn't want to say it. You stole the words right out of my mouth without me saying it. But like, I think about how Nintendo does it, right? Like they really do streamline, plug and play. You pick it up, you interact with the game. It's like you got an update, boom, it's away you go. Or even like Xbox itself. They have a really great system of if there's an update, it updates in the background while the console's in its sleep mode or sleep state and stuff like that. So I really feel like maybe next year Asus and Microsoft can kind of work together to make that a reality.
Yeah.
But right now it is still really tough to think about people who don't generally play PC games coming into this and be like, well, something's crashing and I don't know why. Oh, because I haven't gone into the Armory crate in 6 months. Because I just don't know. There isn't even like a startup onboarding screen to be like, hey, this is where a lot of your updates will be. This is where a lot of the updates for games will be.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just the onboarding process and getting people comfortable with the handheld. It's just lacking. It's expecting that you know some of this stuff already.
Yeah, I agree. I think the problem with this as well is I wouldn't even call it necessarily a mistake, but maybe just like there wasn't kind of the hindsight in that you are making this handheld and branding it as an Xbox handheld. And so you're knowing that there is going to be a huge market of people that are coming into this that maybe want to get this that are console players. Mm-hmm. And so you have to understand that console players have just a very different idea of the gaming experience. And yes, that update process is a huge part of it. If I'm on my Series X, it's just happening in the background when it's on sleep mode. Or if worse comes to worse, you boot up your console and it tells you that you need an update, just like you're saying, Steve, right? You would kind of hope that they implemented something like that here with the Ally or the Ally X, because yeah, that was my biggest issue too. I couldn't play games for like X amount of time when I first turned it on because I needed to update this, that, and the other for things to actually load, for things to actually run. And yeah, it was a bit of a pain in the ass to get things going with the handheld. And I agree that they need to find a way to just make it more in your face and a bit more user friendly, so that you turn it on and it says you should update your driver so your games can work. You know, because as someone who's not savvy with this, someone who's just a console player at heart and doesn't necessarily play anything on PC, for them they might just give up and be like, I'm sending this thing back, like it's not working. You know,
and it's a tough investment to be like, I'm going to go out. I love Xbox. I love the idea of having my Xbox games on the go. I'm willing to fork out 1,300 Canadian dollars. And granted, if you are going to do that, you probably should have some awareness of like the space that you're getting into.
Yes.
Right.
I'm not saying that it's not on the consumer's fault at all.
I would recommend as their first handheld console.
No, but if you are spending that money, it would suck to be like, I don't understand this. Yeah. Now what do I do?
Yeah. Riley, what about you? Did you have any rough spots, like kind of booting it up or just playing with it?
I think mostly it was just like booting it up. I didn't realize I had to update the whole thing. So I was like trying to sort that through. But once I got that figured out, it kind of started falling into place. There's like a bit of a separation between like the Microsoft Store and the Xbox side of things.
Yeah.
Where I found I was like, oh, I want to install like Discord or something like that. And I was struggling to implement that in the same way that I can on console. So I think it's just like there are things about it that are like familiar to console players, but it's just like scaling that to being 1-to-1. And if they can do that, and I think they will, I think it's a really good user interface. But outside of that, I think it's just the price point is a bit hard to swallow.
Yeah, I think I had some more kind of just like little quirks here and there that really kind of sort of like it was more than just kind of like your usual sort of like Windows 11 whatever, because I found that sometimes, because it's at least on the accessibility side, I kind of already mentioned at the beginning of the video, there was like sometimes where narrator would not necessarily fully work with the controller side when you're switching between the different like points on the screen, and I've had to, like, there was even during setup I had to use the touch screen a few times in order to, instead of just using the controller side. So it was a bit of like quirks here and there, and then even for whatever reason, sometimes I would try to be able to like navigate the Xbox app, and it wouldn't until I actually touch the screen, and then it's like then the app is active. It's like, oh, okay, now I can actually be able to go in. And a few times I had to close out like Steam or like a Microsoft Edge somewhere in the background, and it was like it definitely is with like not without its like quirks and bugs, but what I hope is that Xbox and Asus is able to like have continual either hot fixes or patches near or soon after launch to be kind of address a few of those things to kind of make it just that little bit smoother. Because I think once we like, again, as we said, once you get past the setup process and you're in it and you start downloading or streaming games, like it works really well. I think it's just the kind of the initial getting used to it, or just the having to be able to navigate like a sort of a Windows 11 but sort of an Xbox, like it's a hybrid kind of thing of a console versus PC experience. I think this is a good, like, I hope, because this even kind of goes to what I was going to even ask you guys in a sec, because there was one question that kind of came up when we were at the Aces event from good friend of the show, Victor Lucas. He had asked a great question about, is Xbox or Asus going to basically do this as a yearly release of new hardware, or are we going to experience the console sort of side of releases where this will be the Xbox Ally and Ally X for a few years, and they're just going to continuously update it to make it run? Because I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this, because mine is, I think this is a great console that can last me several years, I don't foresee myself looking to getting a new one come next year. They've been kind of on a regular release. They've had correct me if I'm wrong, Steve. I think they the first one released in 2023, and then they had one last year.
Yeah, so it's been annual.
It's been annual, yeah. I hope that they don't do it that way, and they just kind of continually update the Xbox experience on this. What are your guys' thoughts like about that? Like, do you see this as like something that you hope that like this is a great starting point, and then just kind of keep reiterating with software?
Yeah, I would really like for this to be kind of the handheld that they just continue to update and refine and make just that ultimate experience. But also based on the trend, I have like a weird feeling that might not be the case. Considering it's been annual releases, right? So it feels like they might have something new coming around next year. But I agree with you, Steve. For me personally, if I was just a general consumer, if it weren't for the fact that this is what we do for work and everything like that, this would be the handheld that I held on to for a couple of years, before I would ever try to upgrade or get a new one or anything like that. I'm pretty satisfied with the way the games perform on it. The price is tough, but if I'm biting the bullet and this is what I'm going for, I'm holding on to this for a little while.
Yeah, my hope would be that they would run it similar to Steam Deck has been operating, which is like you get some like little quality of life tweaks or variants in it. I think they're smart in the fact that they've two-tiered this release with the standard and the X version. So you can kind of like ride that out for a little bit and then get to version 2 in time.
Yeah.
I think the biggest updates that they can make to this device come from updates to the user interface. And that's something that I'd like to see, is just a continual progression of the Xbox side of things.
I agree.
So that would be my hope, more than new hardware.
Yeah, I agree. Steve, you've been the one that has had every version of the Ally since release.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think we're talking about a PC gaming handheld. So just by virtue of that name alone, there's going to be another one next year. Asus is going to figure out a new processor to put into this bad boy. Personally, selfishly, I would love this thing to come out with an OLED model, and if they can pull that off next year, that would be amazing.
Cool.
To the credit of Asus, so far, is that every single model has taken crucial feedback from the community, and they actively listen to it. Of like the Ally X of last year, they knew the battery sucked on the original model, and they're like, okay, we really have to improve on this. We have to improve the ergonomics. We have to improve the weight and stuff like that. That was stuff that they came out and they said, we messed up the first time around. So by that, I do think that in working with Microsoft and everything, that they can create another model for next year. But we are talking about PCs. We're talking about a market unlike consoles, where we don't have to upgrade every single year. Similar to PCs, a new desktop comes out with a new processor. Not everyone's going out and buying one. They're kind of going on like maybe every 3 years or every 4 years. I do think that talking about this model specifically, the Xbox Ally X, it's a little different because it's so ingrained with the new Xbox software, the game bar and everything. It does feel like this is the one that has like the required software upgrade that everyone kind of wants, rather than waiting for them to bring it to, other models. Like they have said that, other devices are going to get the software update down the road. But this one feels like the mandatory update. And then kind of moving forward, they'll have like the iPhone updates where, next year they might have, Hall effect thumbsticks. Well, that's not going to be something that everyone goes out and buys a new model for, but maybe it is something that, the enthusiasts of enthusiasts are going to go after, or someone like me who wants an OLED model, they'll be, looking for an upgrade. But yeah, knowing that this is a PC gaming handheld, I see this as an annual release, and I don't see Asus really going away from that right now.
Gotcha. Riley and Eren, I would love to hear your thoughts on specifically the Ally performance. Do you find that you wished you had, like, now we're obviously very grateful the fact that we were both, all four of us received this from Xbox and Asus. Thank you very much for this. Yes, perfect. Fireworks, love it. But I would love to hear your thoughts. If you bought the Ally, like with your own hard-earned money, and you bought it from Walmart.com or Walmart.ca, and if you had that, like, would you have? Do you regret having that? Would you have wanted the Xbox Ally X, or do you feel that with the what you have, it's actually like pretty decent, and it's like, yeah, you could see like being using this for a while.
I'll put it to you this way, Steve. For a long time, I had just the base PS5, didn't have the Slim, didn't have the Pro. I was playing all my games and they were running the way I wanted them to, and I was enjoying my time with the console and the games that are available on it. I'm kind of in the same boat with the Xbox Ally. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't say no to having the upgrade and taking just that extra advantage of the little bit of juice the Ally X gives you. But I'm pretty happy with the Xbox Ally the way that it is right now. I haven't noticed anything where I'm like, okay, if I had the Ally X, this would be better, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay. I don't need that tiny little extra power.
Yeah,
well, I know it's not tiny,
I feel
but
the same.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I feel the same. Like I think that as a console player, it's exactly what I wanted it to be. Because until now, if you're an Xbox player, the alternative was just stream it to your phone, maybe, or maybe you have an LG TV if you're out and about, like you encounter one. But I think that this is like the first step, meaningful step towards play everywhere. Everything is an Xbox. So if they can really scale this, like, I'm feeling good with my decision.
Nice. Very cool.
There you go.
All right. Any final thoughts before I let you all go?
Yeah. I had one question for the round table, because I know we just, rattled off a whole list of games that each of us are individually playing, but I'm curious, based on those, like, what's the average battery life that you guys are getting out of this thing? I know, two of you guys are running, I think it has a 60-watt battery versus the 80-watt in the Ally X. So I'm just kind of curious, because for me, at least, unless I'm playing something, I don't know if we can talk about specific games, but most of the games that I've been playing off of this, I can get around 3.5 to 4 hours of battery life on one charge.
If I'm being totally honest, I haven't played super long sessions. So on the Ally side of things, like not Ally X, I'm not sure how long I'm lasting. Maybe Riley, if you've had some longer sessions.
Yeah, I've been playing it plugged in, to be honest.
Interesting.
So,
Okay.
I'll just dock it. So I mean, it runs a little bit better when you do that too. So I've been doing that for the most part. But I've played a little bit undocked of Call of Duty. I'd say probably if I ran like 5 games, I might have drained the battery about a quarter. That's pretty good.
So
it's not too bad.
Yeah, for me, I was, like I said earlier, I think I was, I'll just say, like, because I was trying out the Indiana Jones new DLC, Order of Giants, and I was running that at full performance mode at 40 frames per second, and I was getting it, I would say definitely pushing close to that 2-hour mark. So I at pretty high end sort of things before I had to, like, okay, now I actually, like, it's like 15% I need to plug it in to charge, and that's from a full 100%. So I think that it even on the times where I've actually just, like, I was even downloading a bunch of games and trying them out, I think I was probably similar to you, Steve, like around like the 3-hour mark, which was great for me because I'm running on I was running on original Ally, which I could barely get an hour out of any, like, just one game. So this was a massive upgrade for me, and this is kind of, because for me, it's like when I'm playing like handheld, I don't want to necessarily be playing for longer than maybe 2 to 4 hours at a time anyway.
Exactly.
So for me, it's like the perfect amount of time to get that, a couple hour session in of whatever I'm playing at the time. And I definitely could see myself. Probably like to help save battery life, I'll probably bring it down to more of a performance mode than full on turbo, just to kind of give it that little extra juice, I guess. But for me, I was able to get at least a decent amount of battery, way better than any other handheld that I've currently got, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think going from like the original ROG, which was like 1 hour, 1.5 hours, to last year's model 2.5. It feels like every year they're kind of adding an additional hour. And honestly, if I can run this bad boy and get me to like LaGuardia Airport, and just fly there without having to plug this bad boy in,
Yeah.
I'm totally happy. So you know what, I can't complain.
I mean, I don't know if this is like how big the battery is, but this is like a chunky boy. Like it is not like light in any way. But
they actually had them on display at the Asus event, and they're pretty darn thin. The batteries.
This is the original Ally.
Yeah.
And it looks just like definitely looks thinner than Riley's Ally X for sure, and even like kind of compared between the two.
Look how thick that guy is.
I know, right?
Thick that guy is.
It is.
Yeah. What did you say about me?
Thick.
What did you say about me?
Hey. You got a tree trunk in your hands, huh?
But I think with the added weight, the grips, like making it like as an Xbox controller, it just feels so much better in the hands, even with the little extra weight on it.
It's very comfortable in my hands.
It is.
Yeah. Like I'm holding it right now. I'm like, it's just nice. Like it fits nicely, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, here's a wish list item for next time. I want the little settings for the thumbsticks or the triggers. I mean, sorry, I want
the travel for the triggers. Yes.
Yep.
Oh my god, I would love that. Absolutely. It's large triggers. I'll give it that. Definitely larger than the Ally, but
everything's got a nice click to it. Everything feels good. I like the textures on the grips as well.
Yeah. The buttons, the face buttons feel just like an Xbox controller. Even the thumbsticks.
It's a controller in your hands with the screen.
The other thing that's very small but goes a long way is that over from the Ally X of last year, they flipped where the armory crate and like the select buttons are.
Yes. So I did notice that.
Huge.
Yeah.
Because before I would automatically like go to hit like the back button, for instance, and then end up in the armory crate. I'm like, come on. So now they flipped it, so now it's more akin to like
things like that always make me nervous too, though, when they make the switch, because my brain starts to learn the new way.
Yeah.
And then they change it to the way where it was like, I wish it was that, but it's like, wait, no, now I'm thinking
I gotta retrain it again.
Yeah, that it's the armor crate button.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny that I don't know if this is anyone else. To your point, Aaron, this thing is so akin to like a Switch 2. That I'm actively hitting the A and B button opposite because of the way like I'm playing it.
Exactly what I was doing.
Dude,
yes, and I'm like, I know
going back
this
to
is
the main
an
menu
Xbox
I'm
game.
like, what am I doing
know
wrong?
I'm playing an Xbox controller.
Whoever at Nintendo or Xbox, I don't know who was first. Okay, well, I guess Nintendo was putting their stuff. Listen, whoever decided we were gonna have the same kind of face buttons, except all the letters are rearranged. Straight to jail.
Yeah,
straight to jail.
I know.
Maximum security.
I had the same problem because I was playing Hades on my Switch 2 recently, like just for once, and I got so used to the way that controlled, and then I tried to play that on my Ally X, and I was dodging when I meant to be just using my special button.
Unbelievable.
And I'm like, no, I hit the wrong button.
Unbelievable.
Like, how funny is that our brains are trained in that way, where it's just, oh, if my fingers are closed like this way, A is where A is.
Yeah.
But if my hands are this way,
A is on the right.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's why
switch.
I know.
Like we are such primitive creatures.
PlayStation's kind of ingenious because they're just like, no, just shapes. Just shapes on the buttons. Like, that's fine.
For the illiterates.
Yeah. So cool. Any last thoughts, boys?
I mean, I'm happy with it. It's just like obviously the price, but if you had the money and if you're looking for a new handheld that you might want to hold on to for a little while, this is kind of the way to go. I don't have any major complaints about performance and the display and the way things look and play. So if that's what you're looking for out of a handheld, regardless of the price, this is your way to go. Either the Xbox Ally or the Ally X. But obviously, if you don't have the funds necessarily, maybe wait for a Black Friday or some sort of sale.
Yeah. Riley, what about you?
I really am enjoying it. I'm still kind of getting used to some of the different levels to it, but I'm learning a lot, and I'm actually like as someone who's always wanted to have these Xbox games accessible to me, like it's a really good start. Now I hope that they really delve into their back compat thing as well. Like I want to rip Banjo-Kazooie on this first and foremost, and I can't do that yet unless I stream it. So if I can download this stuff, they can get that stuff operating. I think it's going to be a really cool way to carry your library forward.
Absolutely. Steve?
Yeah, I think that that new Xbox Game Bar goes so long in streamlining this entire process. It makes it super simple just to plug in and play the games that you want. I think that there's still room to improve, and we've kind of talked about that. But I think as far as looking at the lineage of these ROG handhelds and everything, this is the best version so far. I think this is the most optimized version so far. It just comes at a cost that I just don't think is obtainable to anyone outside of the enthusiast community, which I feel like, yes, that makes sense because this is kind of like an enthusiast device. This isn't a casual device. So I would love to see a future where maybe it is more optimized. Maybe they strip away some parts and everything just to make it a little more affordable so that more people can get into this, because I think that Asus is a company that listens, and while it's great to get feedback from the enthusiasts and people like us, I think that the general community also has to get their hands on this and be like, well, I would want this accessible, I want this changed and stuff like that, just to kind of make this a more well-rounded device in the future. And hopefully it does withstand the test of time and continues to go on, and this partnership with Microsoft continues, because I think based off their first year, I think this is a really cool partnership between the two brands.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks so much for joining us, and thank you for joining me for this discussion. If you want to be able to hear all of our thoughts on anything gaming related, make sure to check out the gaming podcast. We'll have a link to that in the description, and all of our socials as well, so you can be able to check out all of our content and all of our personal thoughts on the Ally Xbox, or ROG Xbox Ally and ROG Xbox Ally X. They gotta come up with a better name for this.
Say that 10 times fast to close out the show, Steve.
Let's go.
Oh God, it's just whatever. All right.